Hi, I'm Simon K. Jones, and you're listening to the audio version of Tales from the Triverse. Today we have Ascent, Part 2. London, Mid-Earth, 1980, July. The first thing Golding learned about combat was that it was never like the movies, with long, drawn-out back and forth, repeated punches to the face and gut and groin, each participant getting back up over and carrying on. Fights were over fast, usually with the first punch or shot. Human bodies were soft and easily punctured, crushed and torn. Sometimes he marvelled that most people made it through the day. Former Commissioner Graves hadn't even hit the floor. Golding covered the distance to Scour in 3 lunging steps, knowing that surprise was his only advantage and it wouldn't last beyond the first move. Scour didn't expect someone to come at him from his own side, which made disarming him a quick and simple affair. The rifle was out of his hands and skittering across the foyer's marble floor, his right wrist at an awkward angle. Golding could have pulled out his own weapon and taken out the entire squad before they'd known what was happening, but they were still his people, still cops. If he could do it clean, that's how he'd do it. Then again, that attitude was likely to get him killed. Scour was already reacting, reaching for his sidearm with his remaining good hand. Golding blocked that arm, preventing the pistol from being lifted from its holster. He spun Scour and pinned the arm behind his back. Pensthorpe and Jones were on the move, but were unsure of how to proceed. Jones's rifle was raising, but dithered between Golding and Scour and the new arrivals who were diving for cover. "Stand down," Golding ordered, not expecting them to obey. He'd known for years that there was no loyalty there. They allowed him to lead the squad because he was tactically the most experienced, but their allegiances were to Prime Minister Maxwell. Golding had felt like an inconvenient necessity in the SDC for some time. "Shoot him!" Scour shouted. Pensthorpe's barrel was lifting, but Golding got there first. He fired a shot from Scour's pistol into the woman's shoulder, and she staggered backwards then dropped to the floor. Jones looked scared and didn't have a clear shot at Golding, but looked ready to risk it anyway. Golding fired again and Jones dropped. He pushed Scour away, then brought the pistol down on his head. A quiet settled into the foyer, save for the scuffled noises of others still trying to find cover. It had all taken less than 10 seconds. In the moment, Pensthorpe, Scour and Jones had hesitated. In their job, waiting got you killed. He clicked the radio. "All clear, Golding out." The tinny response echoed in the foyer. "We heard gunshot. Do you need assistance?" "Under control. Remain at your posts." Golding moved the dropped weapons away from his fallen colleagues, then crouched next to Jones. His shot had gone wide, hitting Jones in the chest rather than the shoulder as intended. The kid was bleeding out and be dead within a minute. His breath ragged, he spluttered and coughed and reached up with one hand. Golding took it. Jones's expression was flat, not angry or sad or any other discernible emotion. "Never mind," he said. Taking a breath, Golding waved to Ford, Kaminsky and Chakraborty. "We need to move these bodies before anyone else comes for a look." Walpole was kneeling next to Graves's body, shaking his head. Pensthorpe was groaning in pain and writhing where she lay. He lifted her under her arms and dragged her towards a concealed cleaning cupboard next to the bank of lifts at the back of the foyer. "Thank you," Walpole said, sweating with exertion, as he and Kaminsky carried Graves away from the entrance. "Don't thank me," Golding said. "Just tell me it was the right thing to do." "Can I let you know tomorrow?" The Joint Council elevators were spacious, which was fortunate. Golding was at the front, then Walpole and Ford. When the doors opened, anyone on the other side would see 3 people that had legitimate reason to be in the building. Kaminsky and Chakraborty hung back. "I'll deal with any resistance," Golding said. "I don't think we'll have a problem, not at first at least. No alarms have been sounded. Nobody knows you're here. I'll get you to the security office." Nisha felt the absence of Commissioner Graves. She'd only been in the same room as him a handful of times when she'd been in the SDC, but his presence had always been felt. That they'd avoided scrutiny and interference for as long as they had was down to his efforts, shielding them from politicians who wanted to turn them into a talking point, or the corners of the Met leadership who saw them as a back door to increased militarisation. Graves had kept them in that shithole of an office on Stamford and Coyne, and they'd got on with being detectives. He wasn't even the Met Commissioner anymore, and she hadn't been in the force for 5 years, but losing him still felt like they'd lost a critical ally. It left them all exposed without his invisible support. "You know the codes, Gov?" Kaminsky was nervous, full of tics and twitches. He directed his question at DCS Walpole. "As long as they haven't changed in the past 2 months, I should be able to get us into the system. Can't promise I'd understand what I'm looking at, mind." Kaminsky nodded as if trying to convince himself. "We'll figure it out." The numbers counted up as they neared the upper floors. "It's not just Overwatch," Chakraborty said to the room. "We need evidence, anything we can get our hands on. I want to nail all of these sons of bitches. Nobody's going to weasel out of this on a technicality." "I'm not sure Clark and Varco are entirely on board with the fair trial approach," said Kaminsky, that lopsided smile of his that teetered between amusement and pessimism. "Even if we pull this off," she said, "even if everything goes to plan, what happens tomorrow, the day after that? We need evidence. We need to make it stick to them like shit. Maxwell, Hutchinson, that lecturer guy on Palinor, everyone working for them. For that, we need information." Ford harumphed. "Joint Council's been complicit in this shit show for years. There'll be records. We just have to find them. Once we're into the security station, we can split up. Me and you can go hunting for clues." This was it. Chakraborty wasn't religious and didn't believe in much of anything, to her parents' evident disappointment. But she liked the thought of John Callahan being out there somewhere, looking down, giving them a thumbs up. It had been his case after all. He'd died for it. "Here we go," Golding said, and the lift doors slid open. There was nobody in the hallway. They moved out, following Golding, walking at an enforced, casual pace. Through frosted glass, Chakraborty could see people working in offices, but nobody was paying attention to their arrival. Golding's pass got them through a series of security doors. Then they were stood outside a room with "security" emblazoned on its door. "Wait here," he said, then disappeared inside. There was the sound of raised voices, a few seconds of silence, and then the door opened again. "Get inside," Golding ordered. There were 2 men standing against the back wall of the security office, arms raised above their heads. Opposite them was a bank of monitors, showing scenes from around the city. Below them was a console covered in buttons and joysticks and dials. "These 2 good fellows," Golding said, indicating the men, "have agreed to step aside." Walpole approached the console. "Good decision, boys," he said. "The way this is going to go, you made the right choice." He started tapping an access code into a keyboard. Holding up rope they'd retrieved from the cleaning cupboard, Ford approached the men apologetically. "We're still going to have to tie you up," he said, with a shrug. "Probably better for us," one of them said. "Makes it look like we had no choice." "Whatever floats your boat." Walpole stood straight. "I think I'm in. Anyone know how this works?" "I do," Golding said, grabbing a seat and swivelling into place. He paused, then looked up at the rest of them. "What is it you want to do?" Kaminsky stood in front of the monitors, bathed in their blue-grey glow. "Shut down anything that's helping slow down the protest. Guard towers, monitoring stations. Retract any barricades that have been activated, and anything designed to bring down a cough. The air turrets, or whatever they're called. AK turrets. Right. Shut it all down. Get them a clear route to Westminster." Golding was tapping away and clicking buttons on and off. "There's still going to be hundreds of police on the streets." Walpole moved to another console which was equipped with a radio and microphone. "Maybe I can do something about that. Is this thing on?" He picked up the handset. "Can you connect me to the squad leader's frequencies?" A restlessness was pulling at Chakraborty as she stood in the security room with little to do. The others had it covered, and it was time for her to go to work. "I need to get to the top floor, the ambassadorial offices, anywhere Matheson would have used. Hutchinson's office is up there somewhere. I remember Holland talking about going there." One of the security officers sat up straighter, arms tied behind his back. "Lord Hutchinson? He'll still be up there." "Shut up, Ian," the other man said. "You don't have to tell them everything." "But I thought we were helping them." The man rolled his eyes. "We're not getting in their way. That's different." From across the room, Ford stared at Chakraborty. There was a flash, a glimmer of something primal in his eyes. She knew it was there in her expression as well, the electric response of hunters, sensing their prey. Thanks for listening. You can leave comments and find a lot more Triverse over on my newsletter at simonkjones.substack.com.